Every time you cook in your kitchen, something invisible happens. Microscopic oil droplets become airborne and drift across the room like fog you cannot see. They settle on your walls, your ceiling, your light fixtures, and most of all on the cabinet doors, hanging directly above and beside your stove. On the first day you cannot see it. On the 30th day you still cannot see it. But over months and years of daily cooking, those invisible layers stack on top of each other and fuse into a thick, hardened film that turns everything it touches yellow. Every homeowner who stands in front of those cabinets eventually reaches the same conclusion. These are ruined. I need new ones. New. And a kitchen remodeling industry that generates over $60 billion a year is counting on exactly that thought. Full cabinet replacement costs between $5,000 and $25,000. And a professional repaint runs another $2,000 to $5,000 on top of that. But there's a white powder sitting on the paint prep aisle at your hardware store right now that dissolves every layer of that accumulated grease completely in under 2 hours. It costs $4 a box. It has been used by professional painters as a trade secret for over a century. And the kitchen remodeling industry has spent decades making sure the average homeowner never once thinks to look for it. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and the bell. New band knowledge drops every week. Now let me show you exactly what is happening to your cabinet doors and why every spray cleaner you have ever tried has failed completely. Cooking grease does not behave like ordinary dirt. When oil becomes airborne during frying, roasting, or sautéing, the droplets are so small that they float freely through the entire kitchen. They land on every surface and they stick. In the first weeks, the layer is liquid and thin, but exposure to heat and air triggers a chemical reaction called oxidative polymerization. The fat molecules begin bonding together and hardening, fusing directly into the surface of whatever paint or finish sits underneath them. This is why Windex does not work on old kitchen grease. This is why Formula 409 does not work. This is why every spray degreaser in the cleaning aisle fails on cabinets that have been used for years. Those products were designed to dissolve fresh liquid grease sitting on a countertop. They were never built to break apart hardened polymerized grease that has chemically bonded to painted wood over years of accumulation. The grease is not sitting on your cabinets anymore. It has become part of the surface, and ordinary household cleaners cannot touch it because they do not have the alkaline chemistry required to break it apart. Now here's the critical truth that the remodeling industry needs you to never understand. The yellow, grimy surface you're staring at is not damaged paint. It is not deteriorating wood. It is not a cabinet that has reached the end of its useful life. It is a layer of polymerized grease sitting on top of original paint that is still in perfect condition just underneath the surface. Remove the grease and the cabinet looks exactly as it did the day it was installed. The powder that does this has a name, TSP, trisodium phosphate. It is a white crystalline compound with a chemical formula of Na3PO4 and a pH above 12 when dissolved in water. That extreme alkalinity is the key to everything. At pH 12, TSP breaks the molecular chains of polymerized grease through a process called saponification, the same fundamental chemistry that converts fat into soap. It does not wipe away the surface layer the way a spray cleaner does. It dismantles the entire hardened grease structure at the molecular level, converting it into a water-soluble compound that rinses off with plain water. Saponification is not a new discovery. The Romans understood it 2,000 years ago when they combined animal fat and ash to make the first soap the ancient world ever used. TSP applies that same basic chemistry at a concentration and pH that no grocery store degreaser can match. Now here's the part that should make every homeowner who has ever paid for cabinet work genuinely angry. Professional painters have known about this compound for generations. It has been the mandatory first step in every professional cabinet painting job in America for decades. Before any painter touches a brush, they mix TSP in a bucket and wipe down every single surface. They watch decades of accumulated grease dissolve before their eyes in minutes. The original paint appears underneath, clean and bright and completely intact. And then they paint over it anyway, because painting is what they were hired to do, and a clean surface with no paint job is not an invoice they can hand you. Professional painters see this happen on every single kitchen job they walk into. One of them documented a kitchen where the homeowner had been quoted $4,200 for a full cabinet repaint. After the TSP cleaning step, the original paint was in such good condition that no repainting was necessary. The homeowner's total cost was $6 for the TSP and 2 hours of their Saturday afternoon. The painter lost a $4,000 job to a box of powder. Now, let me show you the scale of what this suppression costs American homeowners every single year. The kitchen remodeling market in the United States generates over $60 billion in annual revenue according to industry data from the National Kitchen and Bath Association. Cabinets represent approximately 40% of every kitchen remodel budget. The average major kitchen remodel in America runs between $36,000 and $55,000 according to the most recent Howe's Kitchen Trends study. Of that total, somewhere between $14,000 and $22,000 goes specifically to cabinet work, replacement, refacing, or repainting. There are over 140 million housing units in the United States. Virtually every single one has a kitchen with painted cabinets. Virtually every kitchen that has been cooked in for more than 5 years has polymerized grease on the cabinet doors. The remodeling industry does not need your cabinets to actually fail. It only needs you to believe they have failed. And the simplest way to make you believe that is to make sure you never hear about the $4 powder that proves otherwise. You cannot patent trisodium phosphate. It is an inorganic compound that has been in the public domain for over a century. You cannot charge recurring fees for a 1-pound box that lasts through dozens of cleaning jobs. You cannot build a service franchise around a product that any homeowner can use themselves in an afternoon with a sponge and a bucket. A $4 solution that eliminates a $20,000 line item cannot survive inside a $60 billion industry. Every homeowner who has ever written a check for cabinet work funded a service the $4 box made unnecessary. So it was never suppressed dramatically. It was simply never mentioned. Not because anyone signed a contract to keep it secret, but because silence was enough. Not in any home improvement television segment. Not in any contractor estimate. Not on the label of a single spray degreaser at any hardware store in the country. There is one important warning before the protocol. Some stores now sell a product called TSP substitute alongside the real powder. TSP substitute contains sodium carbonate instead of trisodium phosphate. It is significantly weaker and will not achieve the same result on heavy polymerized grease. The label must say trisodium phosphate or list Na3PO4 as the active ingredient. Real TSP is sold at Home Depot, Lowe's, and Ace Hardware in the paint prep aisle for between $4 and $6 per pound. Avoid glass surfaces entirely. TSP can etch glass and cause permanent damage. Do not use on natural stained wood. The high alkalinity can strip or lighten wood stain, and do not use on aluminum trim or fixtures. TSP causes discoloration on metal surfaces. For painted wood cabinets, which covers the overwhelming majority of American kitchens, this protocol is safe and effective. Now here's exactly what to do. Buy 1 pound of real trisodium phosphate powder from the paint prep aisle at any hardware store. Fill a bucket with 1 gallon of hot tap water. Not boiling, just hot from the faucet. Add a 1/4 cup of TSP powder for standard grease buildup, or 1/2 cup for cabinets with heavy years of accumulation, and stir until fully dissolved. The water will turn slightly cloudy. Put on rubber gloves before touching the solution. pH 12 will irritate bare skin on prolonged contact. Open a window or run the kitchen fan for ventilation. Dip a clean sponge into the solution, wring it until damp but not dripping, and wipe 1 cabinet door using firm, circular strokes. And what happens in the next 30 seconds will change how you see every cabinet in your house. The sponge will turn brown almost immediately, as years of polymerized grease lift away from the surface. The original paint color will begin appearing underneath, brighter, cleaner, and exactly as it looked the day the cabinet was installed. Rinse the sponge frequently in the solution as you work. After each door, wipe it down with a clean cloth dampened with plain water to remove any residue. Work 1 door at a time through the entire kitchen. A full kitchen takes between 1 and 2 hours depending on size and the depth of grease accumulation. Total material cost is under $1 if you already own a sponge and a bucket. The cabinets underneath every layer of cooking grease in your kitchen are still there. They are still the same color they were on the day they were installed. They were waiting for someone to remember that a $4 box of powder was always the answer. The powder is still on the shelf at every hardware store in America. It has been there the entire time. The remodeling industry built $60 billion a year on the assumption that you would never find out. That assumption just ran out. If this opens something for you, subscribe and share this video now. Every share puts a $4 solution in the hands of someone currently holding a $20,000 contractor quote. Every subscription keeps this channel digging into the vaults they thought were sealed forever. The next vault opens soon.